In a world full of turmoil, despair, and darkness, you need to carry the light. Season 3 of the Get Attitude podcast is where we will ignite your mind, your heart, and your attitude. And welcome to the GAP, the Get Attitude podcast. My name is glennbill. I am your host, international best-selling author of the ABCs of Attitude, America's #1 attitude keynote speaker, and baby, award-winning podcast host for the third time. Me and my good friend Jason are here to welcome you to the Get Attitude podcast. And today, if you need some light in your life, if you think you've had it tough, let me tell you something. Our guest today, he's had it tough, and you will learn stories and lessons from a gentleman who was on Undercover Billionaire. Let's just take a quick peek at what that was like.
My name is Glenn Stearns. And with hard work, I'm worth a load of money. No, I'm not going to say that. That one
But you just did.
I did, didn't I? 1 year ago, I took on the hardest challenge of my life. I went undercover in Erie, Pennsylvania, a city I knew nothing about. I bet myself $1 million that I could be stripped of my name, wealth, and contacts and be given only $100. My audacious goal: to build a brand new business from scratch in just 90 days. If it's a penny short of $1 million, I'll put $1 million into it. The people who help me get there will be rewarded, but they don't know it. I nearly died doing it. I feel like crap.
I love it. I love it. You guys want to make sure that you check out that show and check it out. You can see it on YouTube and I'm sure your favorite streaming service. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to introduce you to Mr. Glenn Stearns. He is going to help you find the gap from where you are to where you want to go, from who you are to who you want to become. Very briefly, Glenn was born to alcoholic parents. Glenn Stearns was diagnosed with dyslexia, failed 4th grade, and fathered a child at the age of 14. His age in the picture above, which is in his new book called InteGRITy. And I tell you, I just read the book called InteGRITy, and it is awesome, and there's lots of lessons to be learned there. He graduated high school in the bottom 10% of his class. By this time, he developed a drinking habit that rivaled his parents, struggled with a quick temper, and found himself in jail more than a few nights. But then you know what? He became a billionaire. And his book called InteGRITy will help you understand how he did it. And I love what he wrote in his dedication. If you're listening to this, if you haven't yet realized your full potential, and you feel like you're not worthy of success or think you're not, or that you have not made it, this book is dedicated to you, the underdogs of the world. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Ladies and gentlemen, gappers around the country, around the world who are listening, we want to welcome Mr. Glenn Stearns. Glenn, welcome to the Get Attitude podcast.
All right. How you doing, Glenn?
I am
How you doing?
I am so awesome, and we're honored to have you. I want to make sure I get your book up here. And boy, what Undercover Billionaire. Let's just start with that clip. You nearly died. Can you just kind of give us an encapsulation of what that was all about, and did you succeed?
Feels like a lifetime ago. I tell you, it was interesting. About, 18, 19 years ago, my wife and I did a reality show, which was a weird, just happenstance. Somebody asked us to do it, and we did it, and I ended up winning the show, and then for years, people kept saying, "Hey, do you want to do another show? We got a great idea." And I always said no. I'm a business guy. I'm not really interested in that. And then I would, at the end, after a while, I'd say, you know what I will do? Put me anywhere in this country, no money, no contacts, and I bet you I can rebuild a business. I said, if you're interested in doing something like that, I said, count me in. And I just say that to these guys, knowing it would never happen. And they called me back. Hey, if you're serious, Discovery said they'll do the show. I said, yeah, I'm serious. I had not thought of anything else. Didn't think of a plan. Didn't think of what would happen. And so you talk about, just being thrown into the fire. It was a very big wake up call for me. That's for sure.
I bet. And so, did you get it done? Did you hit your goal? And when you said you almost died, what was that all about?
Well, I'd had cancer, and it had kind of came back. And so when it did, speaking of cancer,
Yeah.
I got a problem with that. So I had cancer, and it had come back, and when it did, they had to cut my epiglottis out.
Oh.
And so what that is, it covers your windpipe, and the food can go right into your esophagus. And so I don't have that anymore. So, I really kind of had to stop eating, but I was trying to eat. I was trying to eat some of those noodles on the show, and basically I aspirated, and I was in the hospital, I think for 4 days or something. We didn't show that. We looked like I went in and I came out a couple hours later, but we didn't want to make it about being sick. I didn't tell anybody. I was literally eating out of a feeding tube, and nobody saw that. We would just sneak off into a car, and Glenn has to take a phone call, but really I was eating. So anyway, it was brutal. But again, the show wasn't about poor Glenn and his cancer, right? We did talk about building a business from literally nothing, and how you get from survival, mode to thriving. And that's pretty much what it was about.
I love it. And so we always like to start our podcast with this. Do you have a Glenn Stearns definition for attitude? And who would you say was your number one attitude coach?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it's attitude is everything, right? Because whether you think you can or you think you can't, as we know, you'll be right, right?
Yes.
And so you have to get the right mindset. And, in my life, I mean, there's always been these times that things have come to me. Example was I was 14, I get a girl pregnant. It is the end of my life, right? Oh my gosh, there it goes, right? Everything out the window. You look a couple years later and you go, oh my goodness, I got this beautiful daughter. So what I thought was the worst thing turned out to be the best thing, right?
Yeah.
When I was young, my mom would get my sister and I, hey, we're going to get lost. Let's go in the car. We'll go get lost. And so why? My daddy had a little drinking problem and maybe wanted to get us out of the house. Okay. We drive and we get to a field, pull over. Oh no, guess what? And we'd say, we're lost. And so it was an attitude of, it's not fear, it's excitement, right? There's a difference, obviously, in where you put your mind in things. So I think for me, I grew up very fortunate that I was put into situations where I then began to see the silver linings of life, right? Not the problems and these issues and why it's bad, but why it's going to be good.
Yes.
And when you put your mind there, anything's possible.
Yeah, I love that. So it sounds like mom probably was your first attitude coach, or maybe who manifested this unbelievable attitude that you have. When you read this book, InteGRITy, right? It's just all about attitude. My slow and painful journey to succeed. I love that small tagline. How did you come up with that? I can't believe that you're a person that says, yeah, it was slow and painful, because I know how positive you are. But when you thought of that, I mean, it's very catchy, and it probably was slow and painful. Just tell me a little bit about how you came up with the title for the book and that subtitle.
Well, my life has been based off of my word, and I've learned a lot from watching people that didn't do what they say. And I look at a lot of situations, and you always have to think very far in advance. You can't look at what you're going to get out of it this second. You have to look at your life and how you're going to feel about it when you turn around at the end of your life and you're laying there, or you're proud of what you did. And so my dad used to instill that kind of word in my head. It's all about integrity, son. It's about how what you say, what you do. You can say one thing and do another thing, and you can always make an excuse for it. But deep inside your own mind, what's the right thing. And so when we plant our seeds in life, it'll come back and get you either good or bad, right? And so I'll give you one example real quick if I can. My
Yeah.
son, he had a little problem with a girl in high school. We'll leave it at that, right? And so I said, okay, you guys have been caught. Um, you got kicked out of school. Yeah. I said, what happened to the girl? She didn't get kicked out of the school. I said, do you think it's fair? And he says, I don't know, maybe. I said, I think it's fair. And I'll tell you why. I said, you had 12 demerits, and they were all little things. Your tie wasn't on right. You wore the wrong shirt. Your hair wasn't, whatever. They were tiny things that you thought meant nothing. But every one of those little things, and the fact that your grades weren't good. She had 0 demerits, and she was on the honor roll. So when the people came to look at you, they saw all these little nick bad things going on in life, and you're not a good student, and they drop you. And for her, she's a good student, never been in trouble, never had any issues, and they caught her. So that's life. You can call it karma. You can call it anything you want to call it. Bad luck. I got a bad, great cloud over my head. Or you got the Midas touch. You got great luck. No, you plant those seeds
Yeah.
throughout life. And they're tiny things that don't mean a thing until they all add up one day, because everybody is going to get, judged one day, so to speak, and people will catch you or they'll let you fall.
I love it. And I'm going to dig into that. But, you did mention your father and your mom, and they were both big drinkers. And my mom, more of a big drinker than my dad. But we certainly grew up on alcohol. We would always get a beer and a cigar every time we won a championship when we were 6. We have pictures of that. Love my parents.
Yeah.
So many times, though, I believe what I found interviewing some of the greatest people on earth, can't tell you how excited I am to interview you. Sometimes the greatest lessons in attitude come from the generation before our parents. And I'm just wondering, did you have a relationship with any 4 of your grandparents? And were 1 or 2 of them, was there a story that we can learn from them and just tell us about your grandparents, what they learned and what their attitude lesson was? Because that's always gold for our people.
Yeah. It's interesting. My dad's father was a very, very severe alcoholic. And my dad said he threw a bottle at him and choked him out. And that was the last he basically saw of him at 15.
Wow.
And so when I was a small kid, he was still a drunk. I didn't know him very well. And then he died a drunk. My other grandfather, same thing, died, liver problem or something, right? And then my grandmother, I'll tell you an interesting story and about integrity too. I remember being a young kid, she'd always collect my birthday cards. Oh, I got all it had money. I'm helping you. I'll put it for a college fund, right? Well, when I got to be in college, I thought, I don't remember her ever giving me any of that money back, And so I had wrecked my car, and I asked her, I said, can I borrow $2,000? And she said, yeah. She lent me the money, and I bought another car. And then as time went on, my mind went to, and I don't think I ever got paid my money for when I was a young kid when she'd collect that money. So I thought, maybe I don't really owe her the $2,000.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Because I made it okay in my head, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because she had taken this from me. So I think we're probably even. But that wasn't the deal I made with her, right? I called and said, can I borrow $2,000? But I struggled with making it right. And so maybe a couple years later, I came back into town, and I gave her a check for the money. And she looked at me and just started crying. She said, I never thought you'd repay me. I said, why? And she said, I never thought. I said, I owed you the money, didn't I? And I didn't bring up the past. because you know what? Maybe I was wrong when I was 5 and 6. You know, who knows what I remember? But it didn't matter.
Yeah.
My word was about the fact that I borrowed $2,000
Mm.
and I was going to pay her back. Right? She cried, and inside I felt very good. I did what I said I would do. Now I have another beef over here that was different, right? And whether it was right or wrong, I felt really good about it. I never brought up that past. Who cares? And so she ended up passing away after that. You know, maybe a year later. But I felt really good that I I proved I was a man of my word. You know, and no one was looking. That's kind of what integrity is about, right? Is you do things when no one's watching, and you make sure you do the right thing. And anyway, but that was about the only story I can think of with my grandparents. They were again pretty, you know, it was a rocky road out there for where I grew up on. But
Well,
oh well.
yeah, iron sharpens iron. That's why you're sharp. And sometimes our greatest blessings are the toughnesses of life, which is what the book Integrity really is all about. When you think about, you know, paying back 2,000 when you know you didn't have to. And I've had, again, as I read this, I had so many parallel, similar stories in my life. And I have a feeling there's a lot of people. That's why this book's so good. It's so relatable to so many people. I'd love to know, is there another story where you paid somebody back that you didn't have to? Or what I'd love to know, because for God's sakes, right? I mean, billionaire, that's quite a thing. What's the most money you ever borrowed that you actually paid back? I'd love to know that story.
Gosh. Well, I'll I'll tell you one interesting story. I was in I used to do HUD contracting. I became the largest contractor in the country for HUD for two different companies I had. One was an audit company and one was a title and settlement company. And I had a partner. I'd go to certain cities and I didn't have any coverage. So I would, you know, I'd land somewhere and not literally land, but, you know, go in and find the best people that did title work, as an example.
Yeah.
And there was a guy that I knew in Philadelphia, and I didn't know him, but I had met him and we got together and I struck a deal with him. He would do all the title fulfillment for me. I had the contract. I'd come in, bring the people. He'd do his side. I'd do my side. And I ground him hard. You know, I like to get a good deal. Um, so I ground him pretty good. And about a year later, I called him. I said, I'd like to see you. And I flew in and I brought my CFO and we sat down and I told him, I said, Tony, I need to change the deal. And he said, Glenn, I can't, man. I mean, you know, I am like on as thin of a prophet as I could be. I just can't do it. I said, I know. I need to change the deal. I need you to make more money. He
Nice.
said, what? And I said, you know what I've learned? I said, I want a partner in a fair deal. And I said, I think I wasn't fair to you.
Mm.
And I need to be fair because it's about the future. It's not about the past. And he was like, oh my goodness, man. And so I changed the deal. And that man and I were loyal until those contracts ran out, right? And so, you know, again, I guess you get a little more maturity in your life, but um a good deal is where both sides maybe don't get exactly everything they want, but they feel okay about it, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I like to, you know, grind as far as I could, and now I've realized you grind, you make sure it's fair, but you know, you don't want to get taken advantage of, but you got to leave some on the plate for the other side, you know, and it's important.
I
So,
love it. I love it. Through your history in business, certainly you got your ass kicked and lost. Would love to know what was one of your biggest losses, or the biggest times you felt, man, I that wasn't good. So I want to hear that story, but then I want to hear, and I'm guessing this happens to you all, what's your attitude after the ass kicking, right? Like, so we have people that are listening to this right now who may have gotten bilked out of money. Maybe you're in a business
yeah.
situation, they're filing bankruptcy. So I just want to hear that story because I know it's going to be good. And then how do you come back from the ass kicking?
Okay. So I had sold my company to one of the biggest private equity groups. Actually, I think it's the biggest in the world. Okay. And I was really proud to have them as a partner. So they wanted to buy 80% of the company. I said, no, 70. And then I said, matter of fact, I'll even carry some paper. I want to be alongside of you. We're partners. And then I ended up with cancer, or I had cancer. That was part of the whole reason of kind of getting out. And we had put a CEO in to replace myself. I was out. I'm now just a shareholder. I'm not on the operating committee. I'm not part of the company. And the company changes when I'm not there, right? And they start doing things a little differently. And when about 4 years into it, 5 years later, they sell some assets that are very valuable for the company. Well, I get 30% of that income. Only it doesn't go to me, it goes to the company. So I have 30% of income, phantom income that I need to pay, some
Taxes.
taxes on. Um, and then they realize, well, we bought this and that. Now we don't have enough money. So we're going to go file bankruptcy,
Oh my.
wipe me out of not only my stock, but all of the equity. I mean, not only the equity, but also I held a large note, right? The interest kept rolling. So now I'm the largest, besides these bonds, the largest creditor
Wow.
that I've been wiped out of that, wiped out of the other equity. And so when they called me to basically say, what was going on, I was pissed, right? And they said, look, we'll let you come back in. We're going to give you 5% or whatever. Um, and I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up across the street from you and I'm going to go at it and head to head against you again, right? I was mad, right?
Love it.
And what I realized literally after I hung up the phone, and it's in the book, by the way, that these people are the best at what they do. They did not do anything illegal. I was just not a partner. I thought of myself as a partner. I was excited. I
Interesting.
was just another piece that they can move around on the chessboard to get their return that they need to get. There's nothing wrong with that. There's not. So I can either be angry or I can understand that that is their role. They're not apologetic, and nor should they be. Okay. Now, was I on the short end of the deal? Damn right I was. Am I mad about it? No, I use it as a fuel. I started kind lending. I went back into the same building, the same floor. I took over my same office. I took down the sign. It said Stearns up there. I took my own name down and put up kind lending. And so I was excited once again to get back into business and to go at it again. So to your point, you can be the victim or the victor, right?
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
get angry and and again, they did nothing wrong. I wish it had ended differently. You know, I wish I stayed in operations. I think that was probably the key thing there. But hey, I learned a lot, I
Sure.
wish I learned it on a smaller company, but I learned a lot.
So what was the total losses? Like 60 million or something crazy?
No, a
Mo-
lot more than that.
You don't even like to say the word, do you?
No.
So, yeah, losing 60 million would affect my attitude. There's no doubt. But like you said, you got a $60 million or whatever that number was. Maybe it's $600 million education. So kind lending, me and you met for the first time a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, God, this guy's kind as hell. So, what's your mantra of kind? Why did you put kind in, or what's the backstory on that?
Yeah. And again, I look at what happened in our industry, and I'm again in mortgage banking, and not to bore your listeners, but when Dodd-Frank came in, when they changed everything because of what happened in 07, 08, and the financial crisis, they really tightened down everything. Well, what these real smart Wall Street guys did is they understood that the banking industry was going to change because of things like Basel III and a lot of things that had to do with servicing, too heavy stuff. But what happened was they understood the banks were going to shed servicing, and the non-banks, that's people like us, the mortgage bankers, we're not real banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo. We were going to become the dominant players in the mortgage industry.
Mm-hmm.
They were right. They're very smart. So when that started to happen, the industry changed because a lot of Wall Street influences, private equity, people went public. A lot of things happened, and these real nice, normal mortgage industry became ruthless. And we're going to give you a sign-on bonus of more money than you've ever dreamed of. But now we have you locked down for 2 years or 3 years. So the world changed. It was a handshake. Now it's contracts, and we'll sue you.
Right.
So it got to be very a different company over the last 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. And I mean, industry, not company.
Yeah.
And so I came back in and I said, I'm going to put the kindness back in our business.
Awesome.
And I'm not going to do these sign-on bonuses. Well, Glenn, you're not going to get anybody. No, they can come and go as they want. I'm going to pay them well. But I also want to make sure that if they leave, I'm not going to be mad at them. I'm going to be mad at me. What did I do wrong?
Right.
I'm not going to sue them. I'm going to say, how could I have kept you? It's just a different mindset. That's all.
Yeah. So you mentioned the mindset of, seeing things in the future, right? So many people that I see are very short term. So I've got kind of two questions for you. Number one, you obviously hired a lot of people. You partnered with a lot of people. What do you look for in a partner? What do you look for in a hire? Does attitude come through when you're interviewing people? And what do you see the biggest mistakes people? And obviously the one is people aren't looking long term enough, and I think you're right. But what else are you seeing people doing wrong or companies doing wrong as you look at things?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Like people have always said to me things like, "Well, didn't he or she have the most beautiful blue eyes, or didn't they have the most amazing teeth, or what about their hair?" And I'm like, I didn't even see their eyes or their teeth or their hair. I'm looking at whether I think they're a truth teller, whether their expression tells me that I can get closer to them or whether I want to get farther away. I'm analyzing the person. I'm not looking, at their blue eyes or their, it's a different thought process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I like to size people up on whether I think that they're going to be loyal and whether they're going to be somebody that is going to be able to want to be on the team and fight hard, and they have integrity and they have the things that it takes that are very important. So to me, that's where I go. I am the feel good understanding. I don't ask questions about their skill in underwriting or their skill in how they, sell. I got other people who can do that stuff with all the operations and all that. I need to know if they're the type of person I want to work for us. That's important to me. I was in around 9/11, when the terrorist attacks happened and everything. I had flown right when we could fly. Remember, we couldn't fly for like 5 days or something. I then flew to Maryland and got on a train and went up to New York. And I went there with a hard hat, gloves, and I wanted to move rocks, right? I wanted to help. I didn't understand that the National Guard would put a big fence up, and I just thought, I want to see if there's still people you could help.
Wow.
And so when I got there, I wasn't allowed in. And so I left. I went back on the train. And I get on this train, and this old man sits down. I'm sitting in one of those table areas. He sits right in front of me, looking at me. And behind him, he had put his wife in the corner seat. So I'm a little awkward. I'm staring at this man, and I look down and I see he's got a ring on, and it's big it said basketball. I could just read the basket, And I said, so you like basketball? And he says, I guess you could say so. I own the team. I said, you do? What team? He goes, well, it's the Washington uh,
Bullet.
Bullets at the time, right? With the Wizards,
Yeah.
right? And um, and then the Washington Capitals. It was Abe Poland
Oh
who owned
my
both
God.
the teams. And it's a longer story, but I sat with this man for whatever that 2.5 hours was. Just tell me about your life. Tell me about your pluses and minuses and how you lived and, your successes, failures, all these things. And, the one thing that he also emphasized to me was the importance of loyalty and the people that have worked in his firm forever and how, and he went on and you do things that are the best, son. He goes, you take the Irene, the Irene, that apartment complex in DC. He says, do you? I go, yes, sir. I know that. It's the one with the marble. It's the best. I built that in 1964. And it was still to this day. I said, yes, sir. I know that one. He goes, you want to know why I named it the Irene? I said, yes, sir. Hey, Irene, come here and meet this kid. His wife was Irene, right?
Oh, I love it.
And, but I've got my receptionist out here. She's been with me for 26 years. I have my assistant 27 years. Our president's been 20 something years. Many, many, many people in our lives for a long time. Loyalty, it's important. And then how you treat people, right? Because people aren't going to stay when you're a jerk,
Right,
so.
right. Yeah, I love it. Great, 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 great answer. So, I feel like you have this innate ability to understand people. I feel like you can feel energy, which leads me to this question. Who is your best friend when you're 14, 15, 16? Is he or she still your best friend? Or who is a friend that like stuck with you through the tough times outside of business, just on a personal level? Let's honor that person and maybe tell us what you learned from them.
Yeah, so his name's Shane O'Malley.
Okay.
And Shane's been in my life since, actually I met him right in 8th grade, 9th grade, right then when I moved on. We've been through it all together. I mean, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? And I mean, he witnessed everything with me, and there was a time when I had to fly out and pick Shane up and bring him here to LA and put him in a little rehab. And Shane has not touched a drop of alcohol or anything else. And that's been, I think, about 18 years now, right? And so we've been through a lot. He's been through hell with me. I've been through it with him.
Nice.
And he's a wonderful, wonderful guy. I'll see him next week. He's coming out here, but we're just, it wasn't about money, to your point. It wasn't about any of those kind of things. It's just been there, celebrated my life, when things went well. He's not one to be jealous or, he's just been a true friend.
Yeah. I love that. And so I'm just curious, did you guys do anything together that was like quirky or fun, or was there an attitude lesson? Like when you think of him, his spirit, or his energy, like what did he teach you?
Well, again, I grew up kind of a redneck, right? I mean, we would get in a lot of fights, with each
Nice.
other.
Right.
And, I don't know. It's just so many crazy things. Again, I didn't come up with a very normal household. I remember many times we'd be in our kitchen. Again, I have this, it was an 800 square foot house,
Wow.
very small. And we were in there and drinking at 15, and getting sideways, and we get in a fight. And my dad would go, take it outside. So we'd go outside and we'd just duke it out. And so one time it was me against Shane and Cliff, and I just duked it out, and they just beat the crap out of me, right? They're on top of me, beating me. And my dad just walks down, goes over, grabs my hair, picks me up, throws me in my room, and they run off, right? Well, 5 minutes later, they both come up to the porch and they're crying. Mrs. Stearns, is Glenn okay? They're worried about me. They beat me up,
Oh,
right? But now they're worried they didn't beat me up too much, And
yeah.
so in the middle of our insanity, we still cared about each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I got friends like that. Getting ready right after we do this, one of my dearest, oldest friends, we played dice baseball as a kid. And dice baseball, basically, whatever you roll is either a hit, it out, whatever. So we're in Game 6 of the Yankees-Cardinals, greatest of all time. And we will be having a few beers playing Game 6. So Tom Ackerman, when you hear this, you'll know I was talking to Glenn Stearns about it. So there's nothing like friendship. So what we always do in our podcast is we move to something called Knowledge Through the Decades, Glenn. And I want to walk through your life and get the attitude lesson at each decade where you turned it. And I'm going to ask you to just recall and remember your life and share with us your walk and what the attitude lesson was at these benchmarks. And so we always start with childbirth, right? I know you have children. You may not remember being born, but when you think of birth, what do you consider to be the attitude lesson in birth?
When I was very, very young, it was a curiosity of wanting to, learn and go out. And I was not one to stay inside. I was a kid. I would crawl. They caught me on the roof trying to get the cat. I was 3 years old. They lots of lessons about just being outside and trying to, get away from the world,
Curiosity, great attitude lesson.
Curiosity.
Now, I want you to think about being 10. That would have put you in about 4th or 5th grade, just about the time you remembered with us. But was there a time at 10? Was there a teacher? Was there a friend? Was there a circumstance? Was there a bully? Can you go back to when you were 10 years old? What was the attitude lesson you got at 10?
I failed 4th grade. Okay. So, I'm in 4th grade again.
Right.
And by the way, for your listeners, hold your kid back in kindergarten when he won't remember, but 4th grade, he knows he's a dummy, right? It was not a good year to hold me back. So I'm held back and I watch all my friends move up and now I come in and it feels horrible, right?
Yeah.
But then about a month later, I end up with all these new friends and all these other friends. So now I'm friends on both sides. Worked out fairly well, but it was a weird time. I didn't have a lot of, I was pretty insecure. Let's put it that way.
Wow. You said insecure, but you said a word earlier in our interview and you said silver lining. And I'm just not so sure what you just didn't describe there was where your ability to find a silver lining, no matter what faced you, didn't occur at 10.
That's exactly, I think, my point of when I look back, I look at things, I go, wow, I had good friends now in both grades. It built up through your life, right? Like you don't just have it. You reflect and go, every time something happened to me I didn't like, I found something really good out of it. And then that builds, and then you start to look for that as you get older, and you really realize there's always a positive, even in a negative.
So you're 20 and you're at Townsend University. Do you remember turning 20, maybe 21? What was
Towson University. I was just the commencement speaker there.
Oh, wow.
And as I said to them, I'm a doctor now, by the way, Glenn, so please address me formally if you don't mind.
Yes, Dr. Stearns.
Thank you. And I'm joking. But and as I said, I think they got the wrong guy, right? I said I graduated with like a 2.1. And the dean goes, it was a 2.16. We looked it up, Glenn, right? So, and the guys in the back are like, there's hope. There's hope for me.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm 20 and my life is more about I'm in the rut.
Oh.
I am in the rut. I have followed in my father's footsteps and my whole family's. My 2.1 was not by accident, right? I am out every night, partying it up, having fun. And then just to stay in that era, but right when I graduated, I'm at a bar. It's 1:30 in the morning. I am sitting with my friends and I am laughing hysterically at something. Like my friend fell, he got a beer thrown on him, a girl slapped him. I don't remember that part. But in the middle of my laugh, and as I say in the book, in the middle of the most foggiest of fogs, I had the clearest thought. I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm.
This is boring.
Mm-hmm.
And that was starting my change of going, I don't want to follow in my father's footsteps. I don't want to be a drunkard. I don't want to, there's more in my life I can do. And it happened that one moment, really weird, this clarity of a stop.
Yeah, that is powerful. So then, from being drunk so you're an all-American partier. I get it. And your 2.1 was very well earned from what
Yes.
it sounds like. So, so you go through the next 10 years and you turn 30. So do you remember your 30th birthday? Where were you? And what was going on? What was your attitude lesson when the big 3-0 hit with you?
So I don't really remember my 30th birthday. I remember that time where I was all about making money. Now it's like, I got a new vice. How much can I make? How rich can I be? What can I drive? How much business can I do? And so I was very driven to continue to grow and succeed and build and, all those kind of things that you do about that time. And it was all materialistically driven,
Mm-hmm. And so, with that materialism, with that drive, with that hunt, because that's primal. When and look it's okay to make money, it's okay to get rich, and it's okay to hunt. When it comes to being in that mantra, that state, that go get it. What was like? What's the best trick for those guys that are there now? They're like, I don't really give a shit. I need to make money. Like, what was the number one most important thing you did, or what's the advice you can give a 30-year-old listening to this about making money?
Well, I mean, I left it at that because I moved on to the next phase, which I want to tell you about in a second, right? Which
I'm going to let you, but I
made it okay.
Yeah.
But let me stay in the phase of making money. I don't regret a single thing. I loved it, right? I loved the caveman warrior. I loved the hunt. I loved the drive. I loved it. It's fun. It's fun to go and just wake up early and stay in the office till midnight and plan out how you're going to win, right? There's nothing wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's misdirected for me to just try to become rich or just try to win. That was, I loved it. I love that phase. Okay.
Cool.
I don't regret a single thing of it. But can I move on to 40 for a second to tell you why? Or not yet?
Yeah, no, we're going to move to 40. But what I heard was this. Gappers, right? If you want to do it, you got to get your ass up earlier than anybody, and you got to go to bed later than anybody, and that's called commitment. So that's
Amen.
The attitude lesson on making money.
And don't be apologetic.
Right.
There's nothing wrong if you're doing it again with integrity.
Yeah.
If you're doing it correctly, it's a wonderful game because you've got a wonderful way to keep score.
I love
and that's
it.
what you're doing, right? Am I making more money? Am I growing my net worth? Am I making other people wealthy? All those things. There's nothing wrong with it. At all.
I love what you said. Am I making other people wealthy too? Because a true wealth comes from helping others become wealthy. All right. So now it's your 40th birthday.
There you go.
Do you remember your 40th birthday? Where were you? Was it a big event? Or tell us what the attitude lesson was it for?
So right around that time again, because it wasn't exactly that day, I go on a hunt. And I go with Dr. Robert Schuller, if you remember the Hour of Power.
Wow. Yeah.
And I go with it's his son, though he's 60-something, but this is when I'm 40. And we fly in to Portland and we get on a helicopter and we go up the Willamette River or whatever. But when we get in on the helicopter, he says, "You see that jet and that jet and that jet? Those people are all already at the hunt." And he set me up knowing there's some wealthy people going to this hunt, and I'm 40. And so I get there, and there's two gentlemen, Foster Freeze. I don't know if you remember Foster. He's very well known billionaire that was behind Rick Santorum and all that stuff, and Mike Ingram and a lot of other guys. But they were the two that kind of ran the hunt. And I don't know anybody, but instead of everybody sitting around, we're at breakfast, Foster says, "Hey, let's start right here. Let's get to know you. Tell us about yourself." And I was sitting next to whoever the guy was. So immediately my mind goes, how do I fit in? How do I tell these people I'm worthy to be at this table? They got their jets. How do I sneak in some of my toys so they know I'm,
Great.
a man too that has succeeded?
Yeah.
And so as this first gentleman talks, he didn't talk about planes or any of that. He starts talking about building homes in, Mexico and all this kind of stuff. And then it doesn't go to me. It goes the other way. And then I get to hear the next guy and the next guy. We get through all of breakfast and we go hunt. And then we get to lunch and it keeps going, right? And so by the time it gets to me, I realized none of that materialistic things mattered.
Wow.
These people moved from success to significance.
Yes.
They were talking about how to change the world. They were talking about how to build happiness and how to feel fulfilled from that day you're going to sit on your deathbed, that you're going to look back and say, I did good in the world. I made an impact. And boy, did my life change. That minute, listening to these people that had all been so much more mature in their lives of where they were. It wasn't just about making money. It was about how do I make a significant impact in the world. And now I'm crying in front of these men, telling them I had a divorce and I was so, I regretted this because it's a failure. But I am best friends with this woman and my kids love us. And my wife and I are friends. I took my ex-wife around the world with us to teach my young kids, right? I mean, so it's not what happens to you. It's what you do with what happens to you, right?
Yeah.
And so the things I talked about were how I'm going to go and make a difference. And I started a foundation and I did a lot of things out of that, because of that. And I became very, very, very good friends with Mike and Foster. As a matter of fact, it's interesting because it was Ross Perot Jr., Tucker Carlson, another big gentleman that spoke at Foster's wedding. There were three. I can't remember the third guy.
Wow.
And then me, right? I'm going, I feel it was a wonderful, I felt really grateful that they wanted me to be the fourth speaker to talk at his funeral, but he made an impact.
That is great story for 40. We're going to get to 50, but since you mentioned the foundation, what is the foundation? What's the mission, and how can people find it?
Well, no, it's the Stearns Family Foundation. It's a private foundation, and we just go and help
all right,
where we can.
Well, that's good. Well, you can try to be a part of my University of Attitude. We're changing the world one attitude at a time. Our mission is to simply help people change their attitudes. That's why we're here. That's why you have people like you on this podcast. People say, where's the University of Attitude? I said, we have 6 billion campuses on the planet, and we're changing every campus. And you are the president of your own campus. So that's what we're doing. So that's just so impactful for me. All right. Now, dang it, you had to remember when you turned 50. Didn't you have a big party when you were 50? And
oh, do I remember 50? It was a big party. And And I'm sitting there at 50 years old and I don't feel well.
Mm.
And I'm having dinner. This is after the big party. I'm having dinner with a gentleman. You might know this guy's name. His name is Dick Cheney
Yeah.
and his wife, and Lynn and Liz. There's the three of them, and it was Mindy and myself. We're at their home in Virginia, and Dick is telling me I got a new heart. I feel really good, Glenn. And I said, you know what, Dick? I feel like crap. What do you mean? I said, I don't know. I got something big. I can tell something big.
Mm.
And that was when I found out. He got me to his doctor the next day. And long story short, cancer.
Whoa.
And all of a sudden, did my life change? It was, again, the ultimate equalizer, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how much impact you're making. It's about you might be dead in a couple months, right?
Holy crap.
And immediately went right to my family. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Friends and family. What was the most important thing in my life? And so that was exactly the minute, bring in an outside company to own the majority of the company, let them take over that. I'm going to go and spend time with my loved ones. And I went around the world for a couple of years. And like I said, brought my ex-wife to be the teacher, brought my kids. We brought a boat, nice boat, had a helicopter on it so we could go anywhere we wanted. And I got my dad. Now, my dad had not drank since 1982.
Nice.
That man was a good man. And we went and for 42 days, he and I dove and fished every day in Indonesia.
Wow.
Until the 43rd day, I was like, I feel guilty. The world is moving and I don't care. We're just here just with my family. And I finally got to a point, I'm like, I got to come out of this, dream. But it was a wonderful, wonderful place to be for a long time to just focus only on my family.
I was going, and that's powerful. And again, hopefully, Gappers, you will not have to get cancer to learn this lesson. And I was going to ask you, traveling the world, Indonesia, you brought it up. Was there any other place that was very profound to you that you felt something deep inside? You were like, I can't believe I'm here. And I mean, or was Indonesia?
Well, yeah, we had come from somewhere, I don't remember where, but I had the palace. Basically, it was shut down. It was just my family got to go through and tour it. And we go to some little concert at the end. That was an amazing thing. And then we leave and we go to Cambodia and I'm in the killing fields.
Whoa.
Okay. And here my kids are seeing what happens to people that were innocent people that were killed because they had education and because they were not a part of the regime. It was in Dachau, and we went to some places and we saw again the best and the worst of mankind, and just a lot of amazing places that you just go, how can humans get to this level? How can we allow people to be like this? And the other side of it, so it was very eye-opening. It was a very interesting time. So
that's what I was looking for. Because in that atrocity of humankind is still existent in today's planet. So we are very fortunate. All right. So you turned 60, right? Gosh, you've been battling cancer for 10 years. I'm sure you're like, holy crap, I made it to 60. Tell us about your birthday or what you did at 60 and what the attitude lesson at 60 was.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do because I'm 59 and so I'm almost there.
Oh, you're not sick? Oh, okay. I thought you were just turned 60. So go ahead.
Nope, getting there. But it's funny because again, the gift I got out of I did that show, Undercover Billionaire, and it was about building a business. And, I did it in 90 days. But when I got done, all of a sudden I was like, man, I really want to do this again. Like that was so fun. So when this happened to me, I shouldn't say happened to me, happened for me
Yes.
when I was washed away with the company. I'm now out because of the bankruptcy. I'm like, I'm gonna really do it again. So I've been focusing on kind lending, right? And building this and having a blast because it's different now, right?
Yeah.
It's not all just grow, win. It's not, it's that coupled with kindness and coupled with this is a fun game and understanding, having a maturity level that's different than before when I was
Wow.
30.
Yeah.
So to be able to do it now and not have as much stress over it, it's a lot different, right? I'll give you an example. So we're a mortgage company. We're supposed to be in ties and supposed to be rigid, right? Like, no, we work together. We are here more time than we are with our families. So look, we're going to tone it down a bit. Now we have a software that um, we have to use with the broker community, and they get to bring in their business and they get to use it. That's their portal. Well, we called it the quickie because it needs to be fast and quick. And so we got the quickie portal, and we've got happy beginnings and happy endings. We've got, we're going to be easy. We're going to go easy on you if it was your first time. And all these little innuendos, and people are laughing and they're going, are you really saying that?
Mhm.
We're like, get over it. Come on. It's fun. It's light.
I love
And
it.
if you don't like it, we're really sorry. You don't have to bring your business here. And so many people, we have grown faster than anybody. Right now, the mortgage businesses are tanked,
Yeah.
are in the bottom, and we've grown 300%, 340% just since January. Okay. From last year, we're up well over 300 and something percent. We've just been killing it because we're real, we're authentic, we're not trying to be anybody else. They say don't measure, you never measure yourself with someone else's ruler,
Yes.
right?
Right.
We're just ourselves, man. I'm not trying to be anybody else.
That's all.
And it's working.
And so that is now Success Lending, correct?
That's kind lending, and kind lending formed a partnership
With
with
Success.
EXP.
Okay.
And we
Together.
own that 50-50 with
Nice.
EXP, and that is Success Lending.
Okay.
That's taken up. That is an amazing combination of a wonderful real estate company in EXP and a wonderful mortgage company in kind lending.
Yeah. And so I'm honored to be a stockholder in that. I'm honored to tell you that I've put 3 or 4 LOs in there, and I'm honored to say that you have funded many, many loans for us over the past 2 months. So being a part of that growth is exciting. And
They're doing wonderful.
Yeah, and I don't know. I texted you my purchase mentality program. I'll resend it so you can peek at it. But everything I teach and that I do, how to get inside the heart and mind of a real estate agent, deals directly with what you're saying. So hopefully you'll get to peek at that. So in closing, Glenn, you just dropped some unbelievable knowledge on our gappers today. You've certainly helped them think about their lives, how to get from who you are to who you want to become, and from where you are to where you want to go. And so we always just like to let you get on the pulpit, if you will. And I specifically would love, before you do this for me, we have people that are in hospitals that listen to us. We have people that are fighting cancer, that have cancer, that are listening to us. If you could, just tell me your attitude about the fight that you fight with cancer, and can you give those people that are taking the chemo, that are doing the radiation, that are my dear friends, and you know who you are if you're listening. You've battled this thing for 10 years. What's your advice to them? What's your attitude? What's your message of hope for them?
So, again, we're all going to die. Now, if cancer comes in your life and you dodge that bullet and you stay alive, to me, I am grateful that I got to, not that we had dodged the bullet. I'm grateful I got the experience of seeing, oh my gosh, I might not make it through. Like that opened my eyes so much to understanding, to just don't sweat the small stuff and allow yourself to live in the moment and be who you really are, right? Because when we sit and we look at things like cancer, some people it will absolutely take them down, take their families down, and it's a horrible, horrible disease. But we're all gonna be faced with something. And so fortunately, my life, I'm different now. I don't eat, right, at all. Nothing. Don't eat, don't drink. Because it all has to go through a feeding tube, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I could focus on that, or I could focus on the fact that cancer didn't get me, right? It is my new normal. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's where I am.
Cool.
So we're back to your mindset, right? I think that, things like that, anything in the world, you can look at it and just say, am I the victim in this situation, or will I turn it around and find something positive that's going to allow me to keep going? Because I'm alive and I'm grateful for that.
I love it.
I'm not sitting in a position of anger or remorse or anything that is negative, because it won't do you any good.
Yeah. Yeah. So powerful. So then the last thing that I'm just going to ask you to do, we got people, I'm sure, listening to this in cars, walking on beaches, sitting in their home. And when you think about the question, how did you get from where you were to where you are now? How did you get from the person you were to the person you are now? What's the secret? What's the gap? What's your piece of advice for those people that are looking, that are standing at the edge of the bridge going, that's where I want to be, but I got to bridge the gap. What's your best advice on bridging the gap for our listeners?
Well, I think that you're always learning, right? And we got to remember that we got to stay humble and stay true to who we are and be authentic. I have gotten more in my life out of showing and talking about and discussing my flaws than I have about discussing all the good things and the toys, right?
Yeah.
Because I think what happens is you become relatable to people. We're all very similar, but some of us want to put up a wall and show that we are perfect. We are just perfect. And that's some people's way of dealing with life, right? Yeah. And other people are showing how they are just a pathetic mess. And that, and you got both sides, I think, that are, that just, they suck life out of both sides.
Right.
I'm perfect. I'm horrible.
Right.
And I think that neither are true. It's just our personalities are drawn to do something. When you can be authentic, when you can be yourself, when you can focus on your own gift. Every one of us has a gift. Some people, it's retention of knowledge. Some people, it's sales. But it's different gifts. When we focus on whatever we are good at, and we do it with authentic behavior, and we're not trying to be someone we're not, and then we tie it all in with a little thing called integrity, we will be able to rest our head, take our last breath, and put a big smile on our face and go.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, the eternal optimist, the silver lining detector, Mr. Glenn Stearns. Glenn, thank you for being on the Get Attitude podcast.
Love it. Thanks, Glenn.